Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about seventh chords and how they're different from the other basic chords we learned in level 1. So far, the chords we've been learning are called triads. It's called a triad because it's got 3 different notes in it. The lowest note is called the root note, and it's the note that gives the chord its name. Another note is the third, and it's 2 scale degrees above the root note. And then the other note is called the fifth, and it's 4 scale degrees above the root note. So let's say we wanted to make a G major triad. Well, we've got a G major scale right here. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. There are 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then an octave above the root. So the notes that would make up a G major chord would be the first note of the scale, the third note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale. Triads are the simplest type of chord, but they're the foundation for the more complex chords that we're going to learn later on. So now let's talk about 7th chords. A 7th chord has 4 different notes. It's got the root, the third, and the 5th, which is just the basic triad. And then they add the 7th, which is 6 scale degrees above the root note. Adding that 7th note gives the chord a richer, more interesting sound. It's like putting on a fancy hat before you go to a party. You're still the same person, but with your fancy hat on, you look more interesting. And since a 7th chord is just a triad with a fancy hat on, if you come across a 7th chord in a song that you don't know, you can just reduce it down to the basic triad and it will still work. So if we wanted a G major 7, we would start with our G major scale and we'd play the root note, the third, the 5th, and the 7th. It sounds like this. So nice. There are a lot of different types of 7th chords, but the 3 you're going to see the most are major 7s, dominant 7s, and minor 7s. All of these chords have their own characteristics because they have a different set of intervals between the notes of the chords. If we look at the notes of a G major 7, you'll notice that there's either 2 or 3 notes in between all the notes of the chord. From G to B, we skip 3 frets. From B to D, we only skip 2 frets. And from D to F sharp, we skip 3 frets. That combination of skipping 3, then skipping 2, then skipping 3 is what makes it a major 7. If we were to take this G major 7 chord and move this F sharp down to F, then we would only be skipping 2 frets when we go from D to F. And since it's a different combination of skips, then it's going to be a different type of 7 chord. That's going to be called a dominant 7 chord. A G dominant 7 sounds like this. Not quite as dreamy as the major 7. Still love it. However, just because I put these 7th chords in level 2 doesn't mean they're inherently harder to play than the triads that you learned in level 1. On a guitar, a lot of the 7th chords are actually easier than their basic triads. I put the 7th chords in level 2 only because they're less common than the triads that you learned in level 1. Figured you should probably focus on the more common chords first. However, some of the 7th chords we learn are going to be our first 4-finger open chords, so it's not all just going to be a walk in the park. Well, that's going to be it for this demonstration. Hope you learned something. You don't really need to know this to play them effectively, but I don't know, just in case you were wondering what the difference is, there you go. If you got any questions or suggestions for the channel, make sure you throw them in the comments. Or if you want to see more of what's going on here, maybe try clicking on that, or try clicking on that. Or both. If not, maybe I'll see you in the first chord kick exercise for our first 7th chord.